You know what's happening. A lie doesn't stand alone. Each false promise connects to another. He promises and deceives. The cycle begins. He says he will change. He swore he was ready, but soon he returns to the same pattern. And you, what do? You hope he fulfills it. You justify his actions. You adapt to the routine of illusion. Nothing changes. Only the perception that everything could be different. And ruin approaches. The structure becomes clear. The other lies while you sustain the fantasy. The bond is not strength. It is masked dependence. He hides behind words, and you seek meaning where there is none. This sequence of lies creates an abyss, and you are at the bottom. It's hard to face reality, but it's not confusing. He doesn't want to change, and with each new lie, the downfall becomes inevitable. The threads of your hope are fraying. You cling to what remains, but nothing changes. The cost of staying is increasing. You don't need more promises. You don't need more time. The objective truth is simple. He built his own downfall, and you keep watching. This cycle only ends when you decide to stop feeding the illusion. Reality has already been presented. He made you believe you were special, put you on a pedestal, but the height only serves a more painful fall. Every compliment turns into a trap, every gesture of affection a knife in the back, and you feel it, but insist on ignoring it. Nights are long and lonely. You try to forget the emptiness around you while he is immersed in empty promises, and that silence, it becomes deafening. The emotional distance expands like a chasm, but you cling to the idea that it's just a phase, not the end. When he disappears, you run after him. The pattern repeats. You seek validation in your pain. You send messages, call, wait for a response. And when he finally appears, it's as if the world starts to make sense again, at least for a few moments. Hope is temporarily renewed, but at the cost of your emotional stability. Here's the trick. You don't realize that your relentless search for answers feeds the manipulation. You wonder if one day it will be different, if the promised changes will really happen. But deep down you know the cycle will be the same. And the reality is that you have already accepted this fate. His words echo in your mind. I will change. This time it's serious. And you, trapped in an emotional labyrinth, convince yourself that it is possible. He makes you believe that it's your fault, that you should be more understanding, more patient, and that hurts even more. You end up feeling responsible for his behavior. As if your happiness depended on something beyond your control, you live in a state of denial. Messages from friends come like shards of glass. They talk about healthy love, respect, reciprocity, but you can't listen. You are intoxicated by your own illusions. And who could blame you? Love often disguises itself as suffering, and you find yourself in this prison built by consecutive words. Each encounter is a new expectation. You want to believe that love is strong enough to overcome everything, but in reality, it is your need for comfort that keeps you there. You make concessions, you accept crumbs, and deep down you know this is not what you deserve, but what does it mean to deserve? That word becomes an empty echo, a distant concept. And when emotional distance becomes unbearable, despair takes over. You cling to any sign of affection, as if it could be the solution. Today he looked at me differently, you think. Maybe that meant something. But it's no longer about love, it's about the survival of your insatiable desire. You observe the transformation of a person who once seemed so solid. Now it's just a shadow of what could have been, a distorted reflection on the surface of a calm lake. And this calm is treacherous, just like him. With each interaction, you feel more fragile. The emotional wear and tear is palpable. You wonder if it's worth fighting for someone who doesn't fight for you. And time passes. One day turns into weeks, then months. The hope that once burned like a flame is now just an ember about to go out. You feel the pain of doubt. Life around you moves forward, but you find yourself stagnant. What do you really want? The answer seems to escape you every day. The connection is no longer genuine. You can no longer feel what you believe you're seeking. The good moments become rare, interspersed with a sea of uncertainty. Forced smiles hide the sadness. The routine becomes a monotonous repetition, and you find yourself trapped in a vicious cycle. The moment of truth arrives. Looking in the mirror, you realize you no longer recognize the reflected image. Who are you? Someone who allowed herself to be manipulated. Someone who got caught in a web of lies. It's a painful but necessary shock. Reality knocks on the door, stark and raw. As you take a deep breath, an idea begins to emerge. The choice is yours, a decision that can be frightening. To break the cycle, you need to cut the ties. The feeling is terrifying. You think of all the lost moments, the dreams that never materialized. But the truth is that freedom comes after the rupture. Reality has already been presented, and only you can decide if you will continue to feed this illusion or if you will have enough courage to stop and restart yourself. The power has always been in your hands. Freedom is not a promise, it is a void that pulls you towards the truth. And in this void, there is a strange strength. You feel fear of the unknown, but what more can you lose? Certainty is fading away. Certificates of love have been replaced by contracts of dependency. In this cycle, all your needs are reduced to distant echoes. The refreshment of affection becomes a prison. Each time he appears, it's like a thorn. You get hurt but still seek the touch. It's a painful dance. You advance and retreat, one step forward, two steps back. And when you wonder where the joy has gone, the answer is clear. It was traded for empty promises. He comes and goes, like a tide that brings back quicksand. You sink deeper with each encounter. Another conversation, another frustrated hope. His words become music in your mind, but the melody is made of dissonance. I will always be here. But what does that mean? A shadow that oscillates between presence and absence. You create meaning where only abandonment exists. And so, you observe, like a spectator in your own theater, you realize the plot is repetitive. He plays his role, the self-assured. You become the figure waiting. A worn-out play no longer shining. What was love turns into a cruel routine. The days drag on. Amidst the grey, you try to rediscover the colors. You remember your dreams, the woman who had ambitions, the one who wouldn't accept less than she deserved, but he extinguished that light. And when you see your image in the mirror, the reflection seems like a stranger who doesn't recognize their own worth. Pain becomes your new companion. It's easy to confuse pain with love, especially when love disguises itself as despair. You try to remember moments of genuine joy, but they seem distant. The memories mix with guilt, and the guilt turns into doubt. You start to believe that maybe the fault is yours, that you should have seen the signs earlier. But the signs were there. You just chose not to see them. Friends talk about a healthy love. They sound so distinct. Their voices resonate like a distant call, but you feel drawn to what is familiar, even if it means a destructive pattern. Each of them says what you already know, but your mind refuses to listen. Barriers are built from beliefs you don't want to let go of. However, amid this emotional chaos, a small flame emerges. It's not grandiose, it's not an epiphany. It's just a glimpse of clarity. What do I really want? The question echoes, and for the first time, you allow yourself to feel the weight of your answer. Genuine desire cannot exist in infertile ground, and that love, supported by lies, has become barren soil. Your eyes open. You realize that the answer lies in your own boundaries. Love should be a safe space to flourish, and you've built walls around you. What are you really protecting? The illusion or your essence? In that moment, a new understanding settles in. You no longer need to justify your choices. You don't need to ask permission to exist, to be happy. It's time to dismantle these walls, one by one. The fear that once seemed insurmountable now takes on a new aspect. It becomes a catalyst for change. What you fear is on the surface. When you dive in, you find the truth. Eye to eye, face to face with what truly matters. The rupture is necessary, but not just between you and him. It's the internal rupture. You must free yourself from the invisible chains that bind your self-esteem. The conversations you have had with yourself need to change. Instead of self-judgment, choose compassion. Not for him, but for you. Imagine yourself free, not from love, but from fear. Not from the relationship, but from attachment. The loneliness you fear is a fertile space. It's where you can replant your hopes without the shadows of others. When the decision comes, it is heavy. You hesitate. The idea of being alone is terrifying. But the alternative, staying there next to someone who doesn't see your value, is much more unbearable. And then, you gather courage. Talking, cutting ties, closing cycles. This is the real struggle. What comes next is life. Not as a spectacle, but as a continuous process. Reality has already been presented. The future is not a continuation of the past. It is a blank page, and only you decide what story to write. And that future as a blank page, it is an invitation to freedom, but also a minefield of uncertainties. You hesitate to look at it, afraid of what it might reveal. The reality is that life does not wait. The days pass, taking with them every fragment of who you used to be. The first step is the hardest. The idea of being free is accompanied by echoes of voices from the past. You can't do it. No one will want you. These echoes are persistent, but you are no longer the same. Each measure of pain brought a new layer of understanding. And now deep down you know that this weight can turn into lightness. The moments when you were alone start to gain a new value. Those moments, once filled with loneliness, now become the seed of a new identity. You discover things about yourself that you had forgotten. The bitter taste of memories is suddenly replaced by a sweet taste of possibility. Small victories gain grand proportions. Being alone in your own company becomes an act of courage, and this courage begins to shape new realities. You realize that the silence, once deafening, is now a conducive space for hearing your own thoughts. It is there, in that void, that ideas begin to blossom. A growing desire to rediscover old interests or explore new hobbies arises like a breath of fresh air. The music that once seemed distant now plays again. Books that were covered in dust come to life. Creativity flows like a fountain that has been dammed for too long. The first time you go out without a defined destination is a milestone. There is no one to judge you, no one to interrupt your train of thought. It's just you and the world. And this world, which once seemed oppressive, now reveals its vibrant colors. Walks in the sunlight become rituals, small pleasures that were previously overlooked. Each step resonates like a manifesto against the destructive cycle you are so accustomed to sustaining. And every day, you nurture this new version of yourself. Social media, once a field of comparison, now transform into a space to promote genuine connections. You start following people who reflect values that you now recognize as essential: authenticity, respect, and self-love. Gradually, comparisons cease to be poisonous and become inspirations. The personal transformation is palpable, but not everything is smooth. There are moments when doubt returns like a ghost. Those treacherous thoughts instigate nostalgia for a past you now know was not healthy. You revisit photos, read old messages, and a part of you yearns to return to familiarity. It's a test. You ponder whether it's worth revisiting the memories or letting them slip into oblivion. This is not a sign of weakness, it's a reflection of the internal struggle. The battle between who you feel you should be and who you truly are. But instead of sinking into that nostalgia, you take a deep breath and remember. Remember what made you leave. Remember what you are building. And that brings clarity. Looking back is allowed, but staying there is not an option. Conversations with friends transform. They are no longer about venting pain, but about sharing progress. Laughter comes more easily with each meeting. You begin to attract new people into your life, those who value authenticity over empty promises. Therapists or mentors appear as unexpected guides in this new phase. Their words are like compasses that help adjust the melody of your renewed self-esteem. A new bond emerges, something tangible, solid, not based on past frailties but on the strength of the present. The connection is light, without pressure, based on mutual respect. You realize that love can exist outside the shadows, away from the vicious cycles that once sustained it. This discovery is liberating, like shedding the weight of stones off your shoulders. You begin to understand that you spent too much time searching for something that did not exist. True love is not based on expectations or promises. It is simply presence, support, and understanding. And in this way, you no longer cling to crumbs. Now you seek what truly matters, and in this search something even more powerful emerges. Understanding that self-love is the key to any healthy relationship. You rethink the definitions of love you once had, adjusting them to your own needs. What once seemed like an abyss is transforming into a universe of possibilities. You realize that you can love and be loved, that you do not need to sacrifice yourself for someone else. Now each small step you take towards yourself becomes a testament to perseverance. Reality has already been presented. You have learned the most important lesson, that true change starts from within, and this change is the only constant in your new narrative. The future is no longer a field of uncertainties. It is fertile soil, ready to blossom with new stories. You can decide what to cultivate and when to harvest, and that choice is entirely yours.